Hey guys, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark here with JVL. We were taping this late night because I was on an airplane listening to JVL talk to Sarah. You can go get that in our subscribers only secret podcast. So you can subscribe right here on YouTube actually, or you can go to bulwark.com/subscribe to get the Sarah and JVL secret podcast. But anyway, they were discussing his newsletter that was titled "The Age of America is Over." It was a really great chat. But I was so excited to download it for the flight because I'm in a really dark place about the state of America. And I think you titled the secret podcast "Dark Something." And I was like, this is going to be just what I need, some darkness to feed my darkness. And what happened was Sarah, as is her wont, was like giving, she was clear-eyed, but giving a more what is the hopeful way that we could recover America, that America could rebound, like how could we fight this? And those are all great instincts, but it's just not where I am right this second. And so I was like, I want to do a darker version of this secret podcast with JVL where we discuss the worst case outcomes for the end of the age of America. So will you do that with me?
Sure thing, man. Sarah makes you want to be a better person, and that's one of the reasons I love her, and I would follow her anywhere. But I would say I want to believe, Sarah, but I found her case, which essentially was, we can recover. These guys are going to tear everything down. We won't ever be able to go back to what we were. But if we have a vision and a will, we can build something new that's great. And for a couple different reasons, I don't believe that's true. Or that's wrong. I don't believe that's likely.
Likely.
How about that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, no,
How's that?
likely. And because I sure think it's possible. And I think the thing that resonated with me that you kind of wrote was basically when you wrote "The Age of America is Over." I think one of your social media posts promoting it was like, I don't think like people have come to terms with like
No.
where we're at, like how bad the situation actually is
Not in
right now.
America.
Because because like 5,000 points down in the Dow is a really bad 2 days, but everybody's going along with their lives. They've thought that deeply about the worst case outcomes. And so, as a antidote to your podcast, what I did next on the flight was read from this book, The Captive Mind, that Anne Applebaum suggested, from a Polish a Polish author who was living through the move from the Nazis to the commies back in the 1940s and 50s. Yeah. And this was giving me what I was looking for. Okay.
Yeah, scratch your itch.
So, this was scratch your itch. So I want to read this section.
Cold War Poland. Yeah. Oh, what a ball of laughs.
I think that's where we're headed. I want to read this section, and I think it covers where I want to go with you. Okay. He is writing now from Poland about how the man of the East, the Polish, they cannot take Americans seriously because they've never undergone the experiences that teach men how relative their judgments and thinking habits are. Their resultant lack of imagination is appalling because they were born and raised in a given social order and in a given system of values. They believe that any other order must be unnatural and that it cannot last because it is incompatible with human nature. But even they may one day know fire, hunger, and the sword. And I was like, yes, sir. That is right, says La Milosh. That is my language, because I just think that the lack of imagination right now is really really kind of striking. It's like, because I just look at all this and it's like the world is going to reorder around us without us. Yeah. And I think that there's a very in lack of imagination, and like, let's imagine how it could go. To me, I look at it, it's like, I think Sarah's outcome is just as likely as the outcome where the dollar is not the reserve currency anymore, that we devalue it so much and our instability becomes so great that order that changes, which has major financial consequences for us, that the Chinese and EU/Canada, Australia like enter the space we were in because we've totally stopped all soft power, and that we retrench into kind of like a bigger Hungary or Turkey, like kind of a slightly bigger Turkey.
Yeah.
And that to me feels like, maybe not the most likely outcome, but something that we're staring down the barrel of right now.
Yeah. The most likely outcome is probably some version of we get through this and we stave off the authoritarian attempt somehow. We prevent the total collapse of the rule of law in the United States. We preserve free and fair elections, and we enter what is essentially like the third American Republic. And that's like the most optimistic thing I can think. Like it's 2029. It's January 2029, and we are still very much a liberal democracy. The rule of law has held. The executive branch is not able to disappear people off the streets with impunity. And even in that scenario, which again is, I'm calling it most likely. I don't actually believe that's the most likely, but I'm just, I don't want to sound like I have Trump derangement syndrome or something.
I actually do think it's probably the most likely, but in a plurality.
But it's a low variant. Like it's not the majority,
sense.
right? It's a plurality, right? I mean, when we say most likely, maybe this is like a 35% outcome. But even in that, we are now like France post World War II. We are simply a one nation among any, and not even a leading nation. We're a nation which sees ourselves as being world historically important and still has a bunch of legacy power and momentum behind it. We have a seat on the Security Council. Why does France have a seat on a Security Council? Right? It's just an artifact of history.
Economically, like we have some things that will probably,
we have some things which are important,
resources wise, Silicon Valley, Hollywood, some of that.
Sure, but we don't get to dictate anything to anybody anywhere except maybe Mexico. Right. And the World Trading Order, we have to adapt ourselves to it. Does the dollar stay the world's reserve currency even in that scenario? I think a decade from now, maybe not. I mean, I think that becomes a coin flip. What if we're not the world's reserve currency? Can we run budget deficits? Because are other countries willing to buy up our debt? No. Right? I mean, this is a massive reordering of America's place in the world. And what strikes me is that in America, I don't think hardly anybody has their heads around this, and the entire rest of the world sees it.
Yes. It's a great point.
I mean, if people in America don't understand that the Canadians are looking at us like, I mean, the Canadians, no offense, right? Love our Canadian neighbors, and but they should be looking at us that way, right? I mean, if people did not watch the Mark Carney speech yesterday, he spoke for about 45 minutes, and it was shocking to see a world leader speaking with such command over events and facts. I mean, you put him next to Donald Trump speaking, and it is an embarrassment.
Yeah,
it's simply a national embarrassment. But also somebody speaking so frankly, because that is not typically how world leaders speak, right? Everything is euphemism and it's guarded and hedged. And you just said that world is over. I mean, do you know how bad things have to be in diplomat speak for heads of state to talk like that about their neighbors?
It's also just real talk. Like some of you might look at that and say, "Oh, well, maybe that's going to help them in the campaign because people are so mad at America."
And it's not what this is about.
But but it's just like it's just a blunt truth. How can you look at a country that is allowing this stuff to happen, right? Where Trump is just like running roughshod, tanking the economy randomly over whims, and like disappearing people and breaking the law, and there's none of the other institutions are doing anything.
He was convicted of felonies, and it all just went away. I mean, this is again like France just this week.
Below Banana Republic shit, and Banana Republicans, right? They arrest people.
And we have seen this happen 3 times in the last 18 months. We saw it happen in South Korea, Brazil, and now France, where there was a national leader with an incredible populist movement behind them who broke the law, and the rule of law held and said, get bent. And it just happened to Marine Le Pen, right? And the world. I mean, this is, again, and So why did this happen in America? And this gets to your point, Tim. It's the failure of imagination, right? The Supreme Court's failure of imagination that, well, everything's going to be fine here. We don't want to upset these voters too
Right.
much. Like we have to
The
coddle them.
McConnell's failure of
Yeah,
imagination, Biden's failure of imagination, really. And like a lot of
Biden,
people, the big
absolutely.
business, the big corporate, you know, folks that got along with Trump. There just is a failure of imagination, just really across the board about how
Yeah,
bad it could be. But now he's in a situation where, again, so back to the Carney speech. Even if the rosy 2029 scenario comes in, how can you look at America and be like, we've got a lot, that's a high trust relationship where we
right.
can do these kind of financial deals and get in these long-term military and economic entanglements, because the past is, because it's like, you look at a country like that and you're like, if this can happen, if it can go this fucking wonky over a game show host, like
Yeah.
what who might come after it? What if there's a recession, the Democrat comes in, there's a recession, and then what follows? Like we can't rely on those people if one of the two parties in a two-party system is totally lawless
Yeah. So what you're
and hostile.
describing is the same dynamic for why the tariffs won't work, right? So why aren't Trump's tariffs going to work? And by work, I mean like spark a resurgence in low end manufacturing
Right.
and stuff. And the reason is because in order to do that, somebody would have to make investments in factories, right? That takes lots of capital. There's a long lead time, and nobody's going to spend money on low margin industries and infrastructure in a society where the rule of law and like how economics proceeds are a matter of whim.
Who's going to
That
work
is
in these
capital will go
factories?
right.
We're fucking disappearing the working class immigrants that were not all the jobs, and obviously there'll be some American citizens, but like there's a shortage right now.
Right.
There are job openings. There are manufacturing job openings in this country. We have a worker shortage. It's like the whole thing is just ridiculous.
But this is why, again, even in the rosy scenario here, the rest of the world understands that in terms of the medium and long term planning, they absolutely have to plan around America.
Yeah.
Because America is no longer a trustworthy ally or partner, right? The American people can fly. And they were able to look past it once, right? Once, and it's, well, that was a crazy thing that happened.
Yeah.
And nobody knew.
He kind of lost. It was an accident,
Right.
like he lost the popular vote.
But
Then
to have it happen again after the insurrection, after the convictions with the same guy, and he runs on, he doesn't hide the football. He just says all the stuff he wants to do and he wins again. At that point, you just simply can't make
put a TV host in
any
charge of
sort
the
of plans.
military.
Right.
Like we're in a military partnership with a country that has a TV host in charge of the military, and where the vice president's shit talking me in private text messages. I can't be in a reliable military partnership with them.
And where the intelligence community is compromised by their adversaries, right? I mean, Europe is still in an adversarial relationship with Vladimir Putin, and our DNI is, I'm sorry, but compromised with the Russians. Like this is, they can't share intelligence. We have no idea what's happening at the general staff level in the armed services in America. We don't know if these new guys are trustworthy or not. It's all of these plans, and these things take a long time to happen, but they're going to happen without us, and they are going to be plans and contingencies that view America as maybe a neutral, benign presence or maybe a threat. And the fact of that, I think, carries the potential to drive us closer to the authoritarians. I mean, one of the reasons that Trump likes Putin and Xi and views the Europeans as adversaries is because the Europeans are committed to liberal democracy, and he doesn't want that.
The last little anecdote from today that has me just, again, like when you're just trying to wrap your head around how the rest of the world is going to be seeing this and judging this. It's a small thing, but so there's an earthquake in Myanmar.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we had three, I guess it was just like three people.
So three people.
It's not like they had three people that were there as part of the State Department, USAID, something. and like we called them back. They're like in Myanmar, supposedly helping, like sleeping on a cots, and America's like, no, we are not doing that anymore. We're calling
Yeah.
3 people back. And this is just like we are spitting in the face of the people of Myanmar. And the people around the world who interact with America through that way have gotten the message that we're spitting in their face. Like they get it. Like they're not consuming this, oh, there's waste, there's a lot of fraud happening, or this is part of some American culture war with the globalists and Elon, and who knows, they'll come back. So they're like, no, like they see clearly that America is not interested in them anymore. And
Yeah.
like all of those nodes, again, just matter as far as what our role is in the world and how what kind of power we have and how we can leverage that and how it benefits us and opportunity. And one more thing just related to this that I saw today, another thing that's just coming to me. It's like 100,000+ foreign students or something have already gone back.
Yeah.
Have said that they're not going to they're not going to come here for they've either left this semester or so they're not coming back for next semester. So again, like think about
Do you know the most important thing about foreign students is, Tim?
Tell me.
They pay full tuition.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons universities in America have really loaded up on foreign students in the last decade and a half is because they wind up subsidizing all of the domestic students who are getting financial aid.
Yeah.
So when those foreign students disappear, this is going to make it harder for financial. It's like again, all of this is so stupid. Yes,
yeah, the waterfall effect of this just on American economy and power and strength here, but then on then who go back. Like what is your relationship to America? Like all those, all this stuff. Like she studied here, right? Like and had like relationships with Terry Branstad, the governor of Iowa. Like there's just things that happen in the 10 and 20 and 30 year where it's just like around the world we're sending the message we're sending a big middle finger to like everybody except for Putin and the Saudis and the other like oil oil fascists in the Middle East. And like besides the leaders of the petrostates and Putin, like everyone is getting the message that we don't give a fuck about them, and so they're going to reorient without us. I just to me I just feel so obvious, and I think that it's like I wanted to talk it through with you because it's like it does make you feel like you're going a little crazy sometimes when you're like this thing feels so obvious to me, and it like hasn't sunk in with people yet.
So let me explain it. I want to ask you because this is like one of the things Sarah and I fought about a little bit. Not fought about. That's wrong. One of the things we talked about. She talked about how again we could build something new together. And I don't think America is capable of that
together
anymore.
With who?
No, with America, right? And
with Americans, together among Americans?
Yes. Like, we emerge from this crisis and there's a new consensus to rebuild. I look at this American society, and to me, it is so decadent and foolish. I don't believe you can get any sort of consensus. We haven't had a popular vote winner go over 53% since like Reagan, I guess, right? And it used to happen all the time. Like you used to be able to go like, 56-42 or something. And we have been inching away from that for 30 years, and that has finally caught up with us. And this is just one thing to sort of broadly illustrate the point that we don't have consensus on anything. And that means that we are a sick and failing and degenerating society. And, even if you could get to like, pick your great Democratic liberal person with vision, right? Who in 2019 gets elected. Okay, let's pretend they get all the way up to 51.5% of the vote. That is not enough cushion and not enough support to build anything meaningful.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty much
on your side. If we're going to live in this world where it's like, if we're going to live in this world where 47%, 45%, 44% of the country wants lawless illiberalism, then we are fucked and there is nothing to be done about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm more on your side of this discussion. I will say the Sarah, the one thing that appeals to the Sarah argument to me is like, I think it's going to be so bad over the next 3 years. Like, I just don't think people have any fucking idea how bad it is. And I do think that there are going to be a lot of people that are blindsided by how bad it is. And maybe that badness could yield something that could come out of it. I don't think there's a 0% chance of that. I will say COVID really shook me about that
Shook
notion.
Me too,
right?
Because again, million people were dying, and even with that, it was like, great, Joe Biden won by 70,000 votes in 3 states, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
and so the fact that COVID didn't kind of bring us together in any way, and did worse, frankly, makes me not very confident in the prediction that if things go really bad. But I again, there were some extenuating circumstances about the COVID and blame shifting and that came from China and all that, right? Like, if it really is a single man, like if Donald Trump singularly orchestrates a catastrophic disaster that really ruins people's lives broadly, maybe that shakes something loose. I'm not like hopeful of that. I don't think that there's a 0% chance of that. But to me, it's even like, okay, and then that happens, and then maybe there's a period of rapprochement. I mean, you think about Germany. It would have been hard to predict in 1950 that Germany would be, 70 years later, like a global, not only just respected, but like a key partner and kind of a central partner in the free world. So, I mean, like it is repairable. So again, I don't think it's a 0% chance. I think that it feels unlikely right now.
I should say that. So when I do want to caveat what I am talking about are things that will happen in the time scale of our lives.
Right.
Like, if you want to zoom out to 70 years, then sure, anything can happen. Yeah. Right. But we are looking at a project which is a multi-generational project.
Yeah.
That you and I are unlikely to see the fruition of.
Right.
And like we are going to die in a world that is very different than we spent the first half of our lives in. And in a world which is different than our parents ever experienced, and our grandparents ever experienced, frankly. And that is very, very bracing. But to go back to your Polish author, that was once a common experience for people to, be born into one world and die in another. And in America, we just gotten used to the idea that, well, not for us, because this is the natural state of things, right? This is, liberalism and democracy and the rights of man. This is the end of history, as Francis Fukuyama wrote, right? And that was a really interesting theory. And I think it simply turns out to be incorrect.
The captive mind. If you're looking to get down in the dumps with me. JVL, this was perfect. This is what I was looking for. Okay.
We scratched that itch.
I needed to just really kind of marinate in the despair of the state of affairs for our beloved America. So thank you for doing that. Everybody else, subscribe to the feed. Hope you enjoyed that. For more uplifting content like that, tell your friends about the Bulwark on YouTube. We'll see you soon. Hey, YouTube fam, if you want to support the Bulwark, the best way to do it is by becoming a YouTube Bulwark Plus member. The Bulwark is truly independent. We have no corporate overlords. We're not settling any dumb lawsuits with Trump. By joining, you help support our work, and you can get a bunch of perks right here on this platform. Ad-free content, bonus videos, live streams, and some emojis of me, which I guess some people want. So come join, come hang out, become a Bulwark YouTube Plus member, and I'll be seeing you in the comments. So behave.